Hello, welcome to another live session. This night I like to paint easy pumpkins with you. So this is going to be a very easy tutorial. So if you're an absolute beginner, then you can follow along. Of course, you don't need to be a beginner to follow with this tutorial. It is also a nice, relaxing and inspirational exercise. So if you love painting, if you love autumn, and if you're in the mood to unwind, then grab your art supplies and follow along. There is a list in the description of this video with the supplies that you can use. So I'm going to paint with some different watercolor paint than I usually do, just because I like to use some different colors. But you are welcome to use whatever watercolor you like to paint with. Also, pick the colors that you prefer. So I hope that you had enough time to grab your stuff, and if not, no worries, we're doing this slowly. And also this video is going to stay available on my YouTube channel, so you can look back at any time. So if you're watching, please tell me, say something in the comments, say hello, tell me where you're from. I always love to know who is watching me. And well, if there are any questions, also don't hesitate to ask. So I am going to grab a round brush. I usually do, so nothing new at this moment. Let me see which one I am going to grab. Yes, I'm going with a size 10 round brush. You can also pick a smaller one if you like to. And we are going to start with painting right away. We're not going to sketch. I am in the mood to paint and I want to make this easy. So that's why we are going to paint pumpkins, easy pumpkins. So first let me wet my paint. I've got several colors here, and wet the brush and pick a color. So I am going to start with some orange, but later on I'm going to try out some other colors as well. So starting out, a pumpkin has got these curves, these curvy shapes. We are going to paint those. So perhaps you can watch first what I'm doing, and we're going to repeat this process for all the pumpkins that we're going to paint this evening. There are also going to be small pumpkins, so I'm going to cover them all over my paper. So this is like one of the shapes, one of the curvy shapes of the pumpkin, like in the center. And then I'm going to work outwards, and I'm going to leave some white space between each shape that I'm painting. So I don't need to draw the lines, I'm creating them with white space. And I'm going to do that again. And going outward, I'm going to make them smaller. So going to the right, I'm making them like curvy this side. Going to the other side, I'm going to make them curvy in the other direction. See, this is very, very simple. It's not rocket science. And if you accidentally touch the other shape, that's no problem. That's just fine. This doesn't need to be perfect. This is a mindful, relaxing exercise. Just have fun with the paint. So what I'm doing now is paint some of the curves at the top. And now first I think I will add a stem of the pumpkin. So far I'm still going with traditional colors. I'm using some green for the stem. I think it already looks really nice. So what I like to do, as I always do, and I'm using different colors than usual, so I'm out of my comfort zone here. I think I'm going to add some dark pink. I'm going to add it here. Oh, I love the way it flows through. Oh my god, this looks really beautiful. This is like one of my favorite parts of painting with watercolor. So I'm just going to let that be. And I really like this color. So what I'm going to do now is add another pumpkin, and I'm going to use this color, this beautiful dark pink color. I'm going to do the same thing. Start with the middle shape of the pumpkin, and you can make the pumpkins like, you know, like short, small, and wide. You can make them tall, you can make them in all kind of shapes that you like. Be playful, explore. So perhaps because I am making smaller pumpkins, a smaller round brush would make it easier. So if you notice that you have difficulty in having control with your brush, then perhaps you can use a smaller brush. And I also like to paint with the tip of the brush, especially for the smaller parts. Alright, going to paint the stem. I'm going to paint it with the same green. I'm going to make this one a bit curvy, like this. So what I'm going to do now is drop in, I think, some of this yellow into this pumpkin, and now I'm thinking whether I'm going to do it at the top or the bottom. I'm going to do it right here. Not all the paint is still wet. I think this middle part has dried a bit. Still, yes, oh, it's going really nicely. It's blending in very nicely. Loving this. So moving on, I'm going to use this same yellow for my next pumpkin. And now I like to do a little bit different with the shape. I'm going to do it a little bit more curvy. I really love these colors. They're very, very pigmented. Really beautiful, vibrant colors. So if you're doing this, don't be afraid to mess this up. Just try it out, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Just play around. So I know that lately I have been in an autumn themed mood, but I mean it is autumn. I feel the weather outside. It's getting colder. The crisp autumn smell is in the air. The leaves are changing color. And I really love the coziness of this time of year. So that's reflecting in what I'm creating. So I'm thinking for this yellow one, perhaps I'm going to do more, but for this one I like to drop in some green. And I'm starting with the light green. As I said, this is an exploration. I am exploring this as well. But I'm really loving how these are matching together. So I'm going to drop in a bit darker as well. Yes, and then with this, again the same green, I'm going to add a stem on top of it. Awesome, I'm really loving this. So how is it going for you? I really hope that you're also making really pretty pumpkins and that you're enjoying the process as well. So I think I am going to make light purple, light pink pumpkin. I haven't really figured out all the colors I like to have. That's something you can do if you like to. What you can do is when you want to create a composition or an art print, to think about your color palette beforehand. You can do color study and then pick a few colors, and then when you're painting, only use those colors. Also for blending, only use the basic colors that you've chosen. And for now, I'm not doing that. I'm going rogue. Just looking at all the paints I have. Well, basically this is my color palette. This is the paint that I have for me, and this is what I can use. But I'm not limiting myself. So I really like to get my creative juices flowing. I had in mind that I like to keep this playful. And that's why I also like to use non-traditional pumpkin colors. So I'm going to drop in a bit of this nice, delicious color. Oh my god, look at this. Oh, doesn't that make you so happy? I think I can do an entire video just about this effect of watercolor. Now, to make it even more delicious, I'm going to drop in just a bit of this yellow in a few places. Yes, loving it. Only now again I've got a few darks, and I need to have more of this yellow with green because otherwise it doesn't match. So I think the next pumpkin is going to start off with green. Going to paint another curvy one again because I like to have some variation. Going to drop in some yellow and going to drop in some darker green. This is a really bright green, but the other colors that we're using are also very, very bright. Need to paint a stem. I forgot to do that here. All right. I am thinking that I like to drop in some yellow in a few places here as well. Over here and here you can see that the pink has spread through the green of the stem, and that's just fine. Alright, loving it so far. I think that I like to introduce a different color. So at this moment I'm thinking I first like to add a little bit of dark purple right here. It's not really dark, maybe I need to use this one. If you're doing this, make sure that you've got enough pigment on your brush, otherwise it doesn't work. Alright, I'm liking that dark. I'm going to make a purple pumpkin. So what you can also do is move the direction. So what I'm doing now looks like I am painting a flower, only what I'm doing is painting a pumpkin from above. So this is a way you can start doing that, and basically you're doing the same thing, just adding these pieces of the pumpkin. You see, the further I go along, the less pigment I've got on my brush, so the paint gets lighter. So now we need to paint a stem in here, but I first like to add some more color to this purple to make this one more interesting. Alright, I'm going to paint another purple one. So as you can see, I'm using less pigment on my brush and more water. So then the paint is more transparent. I am painting a more traditional shape again. So if you're watching this and you think that I've got a plan, well, I don't. I don't have an example, I don't have any image, I'm just doing this the way I think it feels good. Loving this. The only thing I have in mind is I like to mix and match some of the colors, and that I like some colors matching together, and I like to add in some darker or lighter, you know, like really contrasting colors, because that really creates a lovely effect. Alright, so now I've got not enough water on my brush. I need to paint the stem in here, but paint is still wet. So now you can see I accidentally touched that part, so it's flowing in there. And I was thinking that I would have wanted the stem to go over some of the pieces that are already painted now. So I'm going to wait until that paint is dry and see if I can do something different there. Alright, I'm going to make another more orange pumpkin just to balance it out. And this one I'm going to make like a really tall one with like thin stripes. I love this color so much. It's less transparent, it's a very vibrant color. Alright, this is interesting. I dropped in some pink and it blends in a little bit light brown. So I used my brush to lift off some of the paint so that it's more balanced. All these stems that I'm painting are really dark, so trying to make them a little bit lighter. Perhaps later on we can paint some leaves at the tops. I think that would look nice. So I'm going to paint another yellow one. So I hope by now you got the hang of it and that you're really enjoying the process. And of course you don't need to pick the same colors that I'm using. You can pick your own and do what feels right for you. Also be careful not to use too much water because then your paper can get oversaturated. Now I am someone who paints with a lot of water and I know that I do that, so I need to be careful. I just like to drop in so much colors because I like the effect. So this paper that I'm using is very good, high quality paper, but not all the paper can manage with this amount of water. Just make sure that you've got heavyweight paper, but then still there are variations with the paper. So something that you need to look at, that you just don't use too much water. Alright, I am thinking if there are any other colors I like to add into the palette that we're using now. going to pick a color over here for the next pumpkin. This is starting to be a really colorful, happy composition. So again, you don't need to pick the same colors as I do. If you prefer to stay with orange pumpkins, that's alright too. I'm just in a playful kind of mood. So now I like to drop in, I think purple looks really nice here. Perhaps even a little bit of this one. Yes. I just can't stop doing that. I really love watching the colors flow through the paint. Thinking I can't help myself, but I like to add some right here. Wow. Loving it. I still love the first pumpkin that we do, so I think I'm going to do another one. I'm also loving this with the pink and the purple and the orange. It's very lovely. But I also like this yellow one with the green. Well, I love all of them. Let me see, I need to, oh wait. Don't get messy here. Alright, I need to paint a stem on this one. So perhaps I should use a smaller brush for this, but I'm a bit stubborn, I guess. And there's too much paint over here. That's a really nice thing about watercolor brushes. If you've got good quality brushes, they can pick up a lot of water. So you can use your brush to get rid of excess water or excess paint on your paper. It's also a really nice way to get rid of mistakes that you made. Alright, I'm going to do another orange one. Dropping in some yellow and dropping in some dark pink at the bottom. Look at that. I think I'm going to add in some of the blue in this pink pumpkin I'm painting here. That's a nice thing that you can do to add some balance in your art composition. Reuse the colors. So for example, with the orange, you drop in some of the pink and then make a pink one, drop in the orange, and you can mix and match the colors so they really fit together very well that way. But for now, for this one, I like to use that blue. And of course, it's going to blend in and turn into some purple. Alright, need to paint some of these stems here. Going to try a different color green first. Alright, I am going to paint another one a little bit in a... I like to paint one in another direction. Let me see. I like this color. So I'm going to start out like, well, I wanted to say flower, but no, it's like more like an upside down pumpkin, or on its side, so that the stem is going to be here. I like to make them a bit longer. So I think I'm going to drop in some of the darker purple as well. So I'm thinking what I like about a few of these, that they've got these really dark spots, and this one is missing that. So I am thinking what color, perhaps the really dark purple or this one, I like to drop in here so that it has got that extra, well, this extra touch that it's less boring, I guess. I'm going to paint a dark stem. So perhaps what I can do now is accidentally make it touch. Yes, it's already making it look better. I just like to experiment and explore with different positions, not always draw or paint the same shape. Only when you explore and try new things, that's when you learn something. Alright, starting to like that one as well. Only a few spots left, and I'm thinking what I am going to pick for colors. I think for now I'm starting with the pink. Oh my god, I really love this pink. I really love this paint. I know I've said it before. It's really nice if you use to paint with a certain palette and then use another one for a change. It opens up some creativity. So if you're stuck in what you're doing, that's also something that you can do. Try out some new colors, some new materials, something different than that you're used to work with. So now I like to drop in like this. Alright, I think I'm going to paint one more. And I am going to start with green for this one. Adding in some of the blue, and I like to add in some of the yellow as well. And now for contrast, I'm going to use the dark green again for the stem. So I'm using a bit too much water here. Here as well. I think this one needs more orange. I know that sounds strange. I'm really liking this way better. So we've got our pumpkins, and I like to add some leaves to them, just to like a finishing touch to make them complete. So I need to be careful because some of the paints are still wet and I don't want to, well, mess this up. So what I do, I picked some of the light green here and I'm going to paint some leaves. I didn't sketch. What you do, at least what I like to do, is create these leaves with very pointy ends, like small triangles. So if you like to do that, try it out. You can also add some vines. For this, make sure you've got enough water and paint on your brush. You can do it like this. So I'm going to add this to a few of the pumpkins. And again, while the paint is still wet, you can add in some extra color. Only here it's too wet. Picking up some of the water, and then need to make sure that I've got enough pigment on my brush, like this. And perhaps we can draw a leaf, like a separate leaf, at a few places as well. Don't worry, they don't have to be perfect. And because the paint is still wet, you like to be careful and not touch the wet paint, because otherwise it will blend in together. But if it happens at a few places, it's not a disaster. It can make some really nice effects, only you like to avoid it as much as possible. So I'm really loving how these pumpkins are coming together. And I hope that if you tried painting these as well, that you're happy and satisfied with the result. If you painted along, I would love to see your results, and if you like to share it with me, well, I'd be totally happy. Also, if you like to have feedback, I'd love to give it to you. So you can share it, you can send me a message and send me a picture. You can also share it on social media and tag me or use hashtag #CreateWithSandras. And I love to see what you create. I really hope that you liked doing this relaxing, easy painting exercise. So as you can see, I also like to paint leaves with yellow. I like to mix the colors with the leaves as well. Adding in a bit orange here. I'm going to add in some green later as well. I mean, it's autumn, so the leaves can change color as well. They don't necessarily need to be green. Alright, so only a few more pumpkins left to paint the leaves on. Oh, I like this yellow with the blue here. So one thing that I always like to do is add some more details also with metallic paint. I'm only wondering if the paint is dry enough at this moment. So I'm just playing around a little bit here, just looking at if there's something I can add. Love doing that. Like I often feel the urge to fill like every white space on my paper, but at some point I need to say this is enough. So I'm going to wrap this off. Only I'm still wondering if I can add those details or that I need to be patient and let it dry first. Only then that won't be in this video. Well, as the paint is too wet at this point, well, there are a few, well, I'm going to add just a few details, because I see that in some places the paint is dry, so then you know what I mean and you can try it out yourself once your pumpkins have dried. So what I like to do for this, I use a very small round brush, like a size 1 or size 0. And I like to use, or perhaps this one's even better, I like to use a really dark green. And what I'm doing is add some stripes in the middle of the leaves, like this. Some small, playful stripes. You can also do that with the stem of the pumpkin, like this. Well, I can show you what happens if you do it on places where the paint is still wet, like on this leaf. If I do this, you see that it's going to blend out. Oh, that doesn't look too bad, so I think I'm going to do that for a few of the leaves as well. Only it's not the really crisp detailed lines that I like. So for some of them I might need to get back later on. And of course I'm using the dark green for the green leaves, but I've got some other color leaves as well, and for that I'm going to use some other colors. You see this really blending in very thickly. Alright, this one's dry. Something that you can also do is paint some stripes, really thin stripes on your pumpkins. I always love to add details to my paintings because somehow it just gives this extra thing to painting, and for me it feels like it's coming to life or something. Yes, I am really loving these. You can decide yourself whether or not you like to add these stripes as details. And I am thinking, I'm not sure yet if I'm going to add these to all of the pumpkins. But if I add a certain kind of detail or color or shape or whatever, I like to add it to more things in my painting because I like my painting to be balanced. And otherwise, if you do it only once, then that part is going to be like the odd one out. And if you work with a few kind of details or colors and you use that all over your painting, then everything really comes together as a whole. And I really love it when that happens. Yes. This composition is making me very happy. So while we're doing this, the paint is starting to dry, so I can move on to the details on all the parts. So I thought it would be nice if I add pink stripes on this one here. It depends on the paint if it's possible for you to see lighter lines on a darker surface, because watercolor usually is very transparent. But the paint that I'm using, certain colors are more opaque, so it's easier to see on a darker background. Same goes for iridescent or metallic paints. You can see those on a darker background as well. But if it doesn't work for you, no sweat, just only paint the details with a darker paint. Even if you have painted one of the pumpkins with a dark purple, then still you should be able to paint the details with the same dark purple, because you are using less water and more pigment. And if you're not sure, just try it out. So I was just thinking, I don't want to have stripes on all of the pumpkins, but I like to add some details on the other pumpkin. So for this one I'm adding like some spots. I'm going to use yellow also for the details on the leaves. All right. So I think I am going to wrap this up for now. I really hope that you enjoyed in this exercise, and if you like to share your result with me, I really love to see what you created. So share it, you can send me a DM, you can share it on social media. If you do share it on social media, please tag me and use hashtag #CreateWithSandras so that I can see what you made. And if you like to, I love to give you feedback on what you created. So if you've got any questions, don't hesitate to ask. And enjoy painting. I see you in the next video.